Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Vancouver Lift Expo. My name is Alison McMahon. I'm very excited to be here with you and be the first presenter of the day and of the expo. What we're here to do today is talk about cannabis careers in the industry, and I'll tell you a little bit about my business, Cannabis at Work, and what we do. And then we're going to, so there's going to be a short presentation, and then we're going to do some mixing and mingling. If you've brought resumes, that's great. I have some specific jobs to talk to you about, but we're also going to be, generally accepting resumes as well. So, Cannabis at Work is Canada's only staffing agency focused exclusively on the cannabis sector in Canada. We've been around since the fall of 2015, and we work with companies in the cannabis sector in Canada coast to coast. So we literally recruit from coastal BC to the Maritimes and everything in the middle. So in terms of what we're going to do, in terms of kind of the short introduction leading into the career fair segment, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the transferable skills that we see as good entry points into this industry. Talk to you a bit about the job demand today and give you a few examples of people who are in the room who are hiring outside of us as well. And then we're going to transition into the job fair segment. So what the job fair is going to be, our booth is right there, and we've got team members. So I'm going to tell you about 5 specific jobs we have available on the West Coast, and if you feel like you're qualified for one of those, we're going to be doing 5-minute flash interviews for those positions. If you want to talk to us about a job in a different sector or a different skill set, we're happy to do that as well. We'll be collecting resumes for that. So we'll get to that in a minute. Wanted to share with you about some of the transferable skills that we see in this area, some of the sectors or specific jobs. So people who have worked previously in horticulture roles, perhaps in greenhouses and nurseries, so people who have worked in basically, commercial scale production of some other plant, that can be a really good entry point into the production facility and some of the growing positions. At times, that alone without cannabis experience might be sufficient, or adds experience working in a greenhouse growing cucumbers with some personal interest or personal experience in cannabis can make for a really great candidate. Same idea goes for the agriculture sector. We see some transferability there. Now, people who have worked in another type of production environment, because a licensed producer facility is essentially it's a production facility for cannabis. So people who have worked in another type of production facility, that can be a great skill set. Food production or pharmaceutical production is a similar environment, and that's where we see a lot of people coming in from a quality assurance perspective. So quality assurance roles are needed within licensed producer facilities, and we see that background of pharmaceutical and food being a good entry point. Also, science backgrounds, chemical engineers, different types of bioprocess engineers, formulation chemists. There's often roles, maybe not in a licensed producer, it could be in an extraction company or another ancillary business. And then we see other positions like customer service and sales within the licensed producer model. We're starting now to see the retail model open up right now. It's really only actively hiring in Ontario for retail because the other provinces haven't totally made up their minds as to what they're doing with that. And then also like corporate services. So any business eventually needs an accounting department, an HR department, those type of administration, marketing roles. So those corporate services are opportunities as well. So here's some examples of kind of real job titles that we see. Starting with companies. So we see opportunity with the licensed producers or licensed producer applicants that might not be all the way through the licensing process and to the sales stage yet. Ancillary services, so this could really be a variety of things. This could be a software company. It could be a company that builds machines that are used in the industry. Technically our company is considered an ancillary company in the industry. So all of these support service companies or suppliers kind of to the market have opportunities. And then looking ahead to the retail market, Ontario is having all government-run stores, and so we are working with the Ontario government to staff their store managers for their government-run dispensaries that are in Ontario, and we'll see, I think, lots of opportunity in the other provinces as they make up their minds and put a plan in place as to how they're going to approach legalization. Okay, so here's some kind of real positions that we see demand for right now. So production manager or director of production, master growers, quality assurance person or other QA positions, different levels of growers, processing technicians, shipping, receiving, like I said, chemical engineers. This would be more in a licensed producer environment that we would tend to see these type of positions. And then we see some of these, other positions: chief financial officer, investor relations, HR manager, government affairs manager, strategic accounts rep, executive assistant, and like I said, retail. Okay, so some examples of positions. So the next few slides, these are organizations that are in the room today that are hiring, and these are active job postings. So Lift, you're here at the Lift Expo, and Lift themselves are hiring. They're at booth 319. I won't read these all out, but you can see some of the positions that they're hiring for. So if you're interested, I'd suggest go over to booth 319 and have a chat with them about any of these roles. Agrima Botanicals, they're also an exhibitor here this weekend. They're in booth 548, and these are some of the positions that they are hiring for. So go have a chat with the Agrima folks. And then another big industry player, they don't have a booth here, but they have team members here at the show. Ample Organics, they are a seed to sale or seed to patient tracking system. They have a big segment of the licensed producers that they work with, and they're looking for a couple of positions as well, so please look for the Ample team. So before we move on, a couple of questions that we often get asked. So often we get asked about the salaries in the industry. We did the first salary survey in the cannabis industry. It focused on licensed producers. We did this past summer. And so we have salary data for 10 benchmark positions within licensed producers. If you're interested in taking a look at that, we're more than happy to let you peruse a copy over at our booth later. So I won't get into all the details there, but I think what's interesting is the salaries are really mainstream. Like if you were to think, what would I get hired? What would be the rate if I was the chief financial officer in another industry? Well, it's very transferable. And if you think about if I was a grower in a greenhouse, again for cucumbers, what would I get paid? It's pretty transferable. So I think the salaries are competitive to other industries. But they're not overinflated. I mean, I think that's the other thing is sometimes because there's so much excitement and growth in this industry, people think the salaries are going to be sky high, and they're not. They're quite mainstream, as well as other benefits and things like that in place. Lastly, what I'll touch on is criminal records, right? So this is the cannabis industry, which means that a lot of the people with talent and experience were participating in the market previously, but in an illegal capacity. And so some people end up with charges as a result of that. And is that a deal breaker? No, not necessarily, but it can be a bit of a challenge. So to work in a licensed producer, there's certain positions that require a security clearance, which is essentially an RCMP investigation at the end of the day. And if there is, if they find that there's product diversion in somebody's background, trafficking, some of those things, it can definitely be an issue to getting a security clearance. Now, not every position needs a security clearance, but some of the more senior ones do, and some licensed producers prefer to have more security cleared people than not, because in order to be around the cannabis in a licensed producer facility, you have to either be security cleared or be with a security cleared person. So if they don't have enough of them, it can be an operational challenge to be able to move people through grow rooms and operate the production facility. In the retail market, again, this is going to depend kind of province to province, but what we're seeing in Ontario so far is they are open to people who, again, have some form of a criminal record or have worked in one of the dispensaries in Toronto. But we're probably talking like they're going to be okay with minor possession, minor charges. Again, if there was a trafficking charge or a violent crime, that would probably be a deal breaker. So we're seeing, a bit of give and take with that. It'll be interesting to see as we move ahead to recreational legalization, if there is kind of a tiered producer model, which we've heard recommendations around, if the security requirements will be different at those different levels. Time will tell with that. Okay, so we are going to move into the job fair section. So I'm going to give you some instructions so that hopefully this goes relatively smoothly. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be collecting resumes. We're going to be doing 5-minute flash interviews for these 5 positions, okay? So these are positions that are really related to a production facility. So director of production, if you are somebody who has experience not just with growing, but with a master schedule for what's going into production, managing that schedule, managing the team to those deadlines, determining what strains are going into production when. That's a director of production position. It would be above a master grower, kind of the manager of the full growing process. Quality assurance, so this would be for a quality assurance person, QA associate, that type of role. Section grower, cultivation technologist, so we're looking for growers. And then processing technician is like post-harvest, trimming, processing, packaging, that type of activity. So if you feel qualified, want to talk to us specifically about those roles. Okay, so Cam, put up your hand. Cam over there. Stephanie, I need you. Stephanie, hand up. So Cam and Stephanie, hands up. Cam, Stephanie, and myself are going to be doing 5-minute flash interviews right over here, so come talk with us. And then Crystal, hand up, white shirt. If you want to just generally drop off a resume, then meet with Crystal, okay? And we're here all day, all weekend, so if you can't talk to us right away, please come back. But that's what we're going to do now is break for the career fair portion. So one more time, Stephanie, Cam, myself will be doing 5-minute flash interviews for these positions. Hi, Lauren. And the rest of you, please talk to Crystal. Thanks, everybody. Happy to chat. Have a great time at the expo.